All right. Good evening, everybody. This is Big Bill coming to you from YouTube Model Builders. This is Johnny's Model Train Talk. Tonight, I'm the special guest, the special host of the show. And so far, we have Jason in the house.
Yep.
Yeah, he's in. So welcome from New York City, where it's 12 degrees. Wind chill factor is 1. I understand that it's superiorly cold over where you are, Jason. Is that correct?
It is warming up a little bit right now. We're supposed to be in the 50s this weekend, but past Wednesday it was minus 24,
Ooh.
26 degrees.
Minus 24. Anyway, just before we get started, let's get the homework out of the way. Or maybe I should wait because there's not enough people in here yet. So maybe we should just wait. Yeah, let's mix it up a little bit. Let them know that we're out here. Yeah, I know. I was watching on the news where in Chicago on the tracks, they were lighting up the switches outside, setting them on fire to keep. They do that in the transit authority from the subway system. When outdoors on the switches in the outdoor yards, they light them up, kerosene, and they light them up, and then indoor under the ground they have electric heaters that they keep on the switches. So it's always interesting to see the flames in the yard when you look over the yard and you see all snow on the tracks and you see flames coming up and you're like, but then you see the track maintainers out there. So Warm Bonnet Trains, good evening all. Hey, Gaffy Haynes. Hey guys, how you doing? Dwight of Northern Star Railroad Lines. Hey, Bill. How you doing, Dwight? Hope everybody's good and comfortable. Sparky 107. Good evening, Model Railroads. Good evening to you, Sparky. Dave Piper, hi. Any of you guys willing, got a web camera, jump right in. Just go look on the site, and you can go see the link that will let you in there. We can have an interesting conversation tonight. Johnny's taking the night off, giving his vocal cords a rest, and stuff like that. So I've taken over the leadership moderating duties over here. So let me get down to some homework. So we knew this is January 31st, 2019. It's 10:03 p.m. and it's the last day of January. Check this out. 11 more months and we're in 2020. Time flies when we're having fun, ain't it? And 11 more months, let's see. In 11 more months, let's see. And then a couple of more months, we got Christmas again, all over again. Yeah. I'm skipping right over the summertime going in. But anyway, tomorrow is February 1st. February 7th, that's February 7th. That's Johnny's Model Train Talk Show will be airing. Johnny's Model Train Talk Show as every Thursday, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and that's a given. That's like you can bet the house on that. Thursday night, 10 p.m. Johnny's Model Train Talk Show is out there every Thursday, where you guys can join in on the community chat and get in like Jason is here. And you can share ideas, talk about something that's new, that's interesting to the hobby, show something off that you bought at a recent train show, or just, shoot the breeze about model railroading in general. It's always interesting and lively conversation. And then on February 12th, we have the Fine Scale Show, and that's going to be hosted by Andy, Miles. Who else? Help me out. I knew who? Ralph Renzetti, a.k.a. the Mudfather. He'll be out there. What's that? I was just getting to him. I paused. That was a thinking thing. Okay, so let me do that again. Fine Scale with Andy, Miles, Lloyd, and Ralph Renzetti. Fine Scale Show, where they'll show you how to do anything from scratch building, using hydrocal or wood, and in all plastic. And they'll do it, and they'll show you, and with the tools that you need to do. Interesting stuff here on YTMB, I think. And then on the 13th, who is Big Bill talking to? And I'll be talking to on February 13th, I'll be talking to Creative Rails. Ben, as a matter of fact, will be on my show that night. and we'll be doing a lot of talking about his YouTube channel. And then we go right into the 14th, which is another Thursday. What did I say earlier? I said earlier that no matter what happens, we're going to do the Thursday night Johnny's Model Train Talk Show. So, and then on February 20th, we got Joe's Train Room, where Joe Desmond's going to come in and share his experience. Lately, he's been doing a lot of things on operations, which I think has been pretty intuitive and pretty good. I think it's very informative, very up to date, and it gives you a lot to look for. So if you've missed any of these shows, go to YTMB on YouTube channel and check out our archive of videos where we have all these JMRI, Arduino, fine scale build, everything, boom, right there for you. And then on the 27th, that's the end of the month. That's who's Big Bill talking to again. And who's Big Bill talking to on the 27th? Brian Burke. Some of you guys don't know Brian Burke, but Brian Burke back 2 years ago was in the hobby, bought a house, moved, built his layout, was in it for a year, sold the house, moved again. Bigger house, better deal. And he's getting back into model railroading, so we're going to talk to him. So what's going on over the questions? Bill, are you in the YouTube Model Builders Group coming to Steamtown on May 18th? Wow, Sparky, what a way to get a plug in. That's great. No, I'm not. I don't know if Andy's out there. Andy, are you coming? I think we just lost this thing because the picture here. Oh, no, we're back. Are we back? Oh, my screen went dark. Yeah, no, nobody from YouTube Model Builders is going. I don't know if Andy's going. Who else is going? I know you got a bunch of guys going, right? Oh, I got to get my thing back here. Live chat. Here we go. Come on. What's going on here? If it's not one thing, it's another, boys. There we go. YouTube Model Builders is proud to present. Here we go. We're back on. Let me go back. Let me go. Bill, are you in the YouTube Model Group coming to Steamtown on May 18th? No, I'm not, Spark, Dave. I'm not coming. I just found out that I don't think Andy's going, nor is John going. But I don't know about Ralph Renzetti, and I certainly do not know about Joe Desmond. Should be on shortly. I should be only at 14 hours of work today. This is Andy. I deserve to go home early. You're absolutely right. Let's see. Just a question for the chat. Okay, what's the question? You put it in Slack. Let me see. Yeah, I seen that. Yes. Okay. And bear with me, gentlemen. We got new stuff we're doing here on. Hey, Sam Cool's in the. I didn't even recognize you. The most handsomest young model railroader in the whole YTMB community, right here. I used to have hair like that. I swear to God, I used to have hair like that.
It's a little messy. I got out of the shower like an hour ago.
Oh, so. Wow.
Frizzy.
What's this? Sparky's. Okay, let me do this. Sparky says that he's looking into meals on a restored dining car, $80 a plate or per person. Would people do that price to help restore old dining cars? I don't know. Just a question for the chat. If I was going there, I guess I would. Yeah, sure. Why not? If the food's good, unless they're giving me, depends on the food. If they have a chef and not the guy from the local pizzeria, Aaron McKeevy says, due to the cold temps, one of my turnout gaps closed and started shorting out my layout. Hey, there he is. What's up, Joe G?
How you doing, Bill?
Good.
Sam? Jason?
Mr. McGeever, where is your layout, by the way? Is it out? It's in his basement. I know what happens is the cold weather. Sometimes the cold weather, it really, the turnout gaps, they close. You're absolutely correct, and it does. You just got to wait for it to warm up. There's really nothing more I don't think. I'm not too proficient on that, but I know in my layout, when the South Brooklyn was downstairs, right below this where we are presently, when the weather used to get like this 5-degree thing, I used to get buckled track because I didn't cut gaps in, and I didn't think I needed them, whatever, and it would short out due to the cold. And then once the temperature warmed up, and the basement got warm, and it was good to go. Gaffney Haynes, Sparky, I would love to, but after airfares, accommodations, car hire, petrol, $80 a plate seems a bit steep. Andy Crawford, Spark, I fill gaps with a acetate provided with structure kits since I don't use acetate for building anyhow. It's in the basement. Yes, it is heated. Oh, okay. Gaffney Haynes, he says, Joe G, dude, hey, man.
Gaffa, how you doing, buddy?
What are you working on, Joe?
I'm in Birmingham right now, doing some rail, meeting up with some friends. Alabama.
Oh, Alabama.
Yeah.
I shouldn't say that. Every time I do that, I always get letters and postcards and email from Southerners. You don't do that.
I had a couple of days off, and since it's going to be 60 degrees down here, I decided to take a road trip and do some rail fanning out in Irondale. And I brought some stuff for me to work on in practice.
Cool.
That sounds great, because here last night it was -30.
And where is here? Where is here, Sam?
Iowa.
Iowa.
It was 13 degrees in Nashville last night.
Right. Iowa.
But I can't complain.
What's his name? If Sparky, if you're still out there, how many guys you got going to this May 18th at Steamtown? You can answer me. Why, Bill, isn't that how you pronounce Alabama? Dave Piper, do you solder rail joiners, or should you not, to allow for expansion? Well, Dave, I tell you, on the South Brooklyn Railroad here, what I do is I do on because I use Flex Track, Pico code 83, and all Pico switches. I do the Flex Track. I solder them together, but when it comes to the connections to the switches, I leave the switches. I connect them, but I do not solder them. I keep it floating. This way, if ever a switch should go bad, or I want to rearrange track or something, I can cut the running rail before it and after it, and then I can try to slip a knife underneath it and pull it up, because it's glued down, obviously, with ballast around it, but I do it very carefully. In fact, I just did it on the other side of the I'm redoing the whole thing. So yeah, you can use rail joiners, and if you want to leave for expansion, you can cut a gap in the rail and leave it. And when you're putting it together, you can leave a little bit of space between it for contraction and he's having Sparky says he's having over 80 people going to Steamtown in May. That's pretty impressive that he got that together.
Absolutely.
Okay. Brian W. Evening, gents. Marty, good day all. Hey, Marty, everybody's saying back hello. So that's if the weather holds up and it doesn't rain, which I pray it doesn't, that Steamtown should be pretty exciting. And I believe that Sparky's in the motions of getting permission to get inside the roundhouse and stuff, and so that you guys who are going can get a definite firsthand kind of on hands, more or less, with the diesel engines and some of the steam. Now, just remember to leave your tools home. Do not be taking your ratchet sets and trying to steal parts off the train, okay? Because if you do that, then you won't be asked to come back next year.
We're talking about soldering. I have a question. What do you recommend when soldering feeder wires to the bus wire? Do you put it underneath the rail joiners, or you put it right to the rail?
Not to a rail joiner, for sure. You're depending on the electrical conductivity of a joiner. With expansion and contraction, those will widen and open over time. I heard this explained by somebody else, so I won't claim this best way to explain this in a rational way, but this is the way I heard it explained that made the most sense to me and aligned with my thinking too, was every section of rail on your layout should have a path to the bus via soldered connections. Now, there's a couple ways to get that. The one and most obvious way is just run a piece of bus or a jumper to every section of rail. Plenty of people do that, but a lot of people don't as well. It's not required. The other option is to put a feeder up to a rail, for example, and then solder that rail to the adjoining rail, and maybe even the next. That way you could have a drop every 9, 10, 12 feet if you wanted. Now, I think the best way to solve this problem, and the easiest way, is to bring the feeder up at the rail joiner. Don't solder to the rail joiner because you're almost wasting your time doing that in practice over time. It's fine short term, but over time. But what I recommend most people do, if they're concerned about the labor intensity of putting a feeder on every rail, is come up at the rail joiner, pick up the one rail, and then jump down under your ballast profile where you're going to ballast and pick up the other rail. So you have to put a jumper every 6 feet or every other rail joint, because you're feeding each rail from, this rail joiner here, you're feeding this rail and this rail, skip this rail joiner, go to the next one, and you're feeding this one and this one from there. So every section of rail has a wire that way, but you only have to put a pair of jumpers in because you're picking up twice at every other section. So, but you could solder rail joints. You get into some problems with soldered rail joints, and they're a massive cosmetic problem.
Yeah, especially if you solder your rail joiners to your switches, you gotta be careful pulling them apart, and stuff.
Yeah, it's hard to fix and hard to repair stuff. You tear stuff out. Also, it depends on the circumstance where. So on my visible layout, there's no way, because I don't even use rail joiners. And I got a point to make about that eventually when it comes to Spark's comment about the electrical gaps. But I'm a fan of just putting a feeder to every rail. It's a little bit more work, but it's not that much more work. Maybe it's twice as much work at a minute solder joint or something. It's a little bit more work. But if you expect your layout to last for a while, if you're building your layout disposable, solder a couple wires to it, make it run, call it a day. But if you're building your layout in a way that it is meant to last for a long time, or if you're willing to put all the work into spending hours or days or weeks building bench work that's super solid, then spend a little bit of work soldering the wires to make sure your layout's reliable. And there are cases where soldering makes sense, like on a helix. I'm going to solder a helix. That's the only place I recommend soldering. And if you do like soldering, solder the curve. Leave the straight. But you need expansion and contraction.
Ari McKeever says, keeping the gauge is difficult when you solder every rail and remove the ties so you don't melt them. I hate when that happens.
Yeah.
I hate that. It happens to me. That's the problem. You're over there soldering, and then all of a sudden you look down and you see you melted the tie and the rail is off.
Right.
You melted the whole thing. So you're like, oh man, I just spent it. That's why I've taken Scrap Track and practice. I just went out and I saw Ron Marsh is prepping your solder gun. If you guys haven't seen that, if you guys have not seen that, go check out Ron Marsh, Ron's Trains and Things, where he talks about prepping your soldering instrument. Yes, I see that, Mr. Wade. We'll get to you in a minute. He's like this. He's like my little granddaughter. He's like Bill. Yes. I'll be right with you, Mr. Wayman. Where was I? Now you made me lose my train of thoughts. Where was I?
You're talking about Ron's video.
I was on, Ron Marsh's video, Ron's Trains and Things. Go check out his video on his channel, Ron's Trains and Things, how he preps a soldering iron, a weller. And you definitely would absolutely be impressed with how he did. And you know what? Even if you think you're in the hobby a long time, you think you know everything that's possible, trust me, you learn something new every day. When I saw that, I realized why I'm always throwing soldering guns or soldering wellers out, because of the tips. And I realized what I was doing wrong. So go check out his channel, Ari. And once you figure it out, then take a scrap piece of track and practice on it. You know, and what's the worst that's going to happen? Let's see. We got a couple, and we have, okay, Mr. Weinman, what were you were snapping some cigarettes, some scissors at us, and welcome to the.
They were scissors. They're forceps.
Yeah. What about them?
Clamp those onto your rail.
Right.
On either side of your rail joint where you're soldering at.
Right.
Like a heat sink.
Right. A heat sink.
The best case scenario in a heat sink, it will help. There's no question. It's a good idea. I do it too, and I use blue tack or wet paper towel. Will, various things that'll absorb heat. They will help some, but in a heat situation like that, your best case scenario is that you get a heat divider. Same thing happens in computer heat problems and everything. No matter what you do, that clip that you're putting on the rail under perfect situation can only take half the heat. Half that heat will still go down the rail. You're still going to have an issue. Speed is key. 3 seconds or less on the rail, or you're going to have a problem.
Martin, hold on. Martin 1107 down under says soldering, soldering. Don't forget the L, gentlemen. Don't Don't forget the L. What has the L done to you guys? LQL, he says.
So how does he pronounce the word K-N-O-W then?
K-N-O-W. I don't know. Joel Calmer. I always solder my wires and tracks. All these years, I've never had troubles after soldering. Ugh. Come to my house, Joel. Come to my layout. I need you here. I'll put you up. All the bologna sandwiches you can eat.
Or mortadella.
Mortadella.
It's like bologna, but it's just Italian.
Yeah,
bologna.
no, I know. But some people, they get a fugazi about the mortadella. Hey, welcome to the conversation. Is Ralph the Mudfather Renzetti? God, there he is.
Howdy.
Hey, Joel Calmer says, I'm in a super good mood. I got my trust bits finished. Everybody, on 3, we give a big round of applause to Joel Calmer.
All right.
1, 2, 3. Way to go, Joel. Way to go, brother. I love it when a plan comes together.
So I have a problem with since we're talking about track, I have a problem because I have Pico, Flex Track, and Walther's turnouts. So the rails kind of line up, but kind of don't. But then the turnout the ties are too close to the rail. So would I cut the ties off to fit a rail joiner on there?
Yes.
What tie?
One tie. That's all you need.
Yep. And a trick that a lot of people don't do when they complain about, I think people remove a lot more ties. And the reason I don't like rail joiners has less to do with the rail joiner than the degradation it does to the ties, where it pushes ties down. If you'll clip the web out on that tie or on various ties, clip the webs out between the ties and slide them back. Do your soldering, slide them back forward gently. They'll help ensure gauge, which was the thing that was mentioned in the chat a moment ago. If you make sure that they remain connected.
What he means by web, there's a little pin between the ties under the rails. You cut that out, and you can slide all of them together.
Right.
It'll probably alternate, or you'll have 2 or 3 together, and then you'll have one on one side only.
Yeah, there's a web there, then a web there, and a web there, and it varies by manufacturer. Just clip just that little webbing out. I actually do this on regular track when I used to lay regular flex track too. Anyway, so I could kink some of the ties around to make it look a little degraded.
Okay, go ahead, Sam. I'm sorry.
So, do you guys solder just your straight track together without rail joiners and then use rail joiners on turnouts? Or do you solder rail joiners and...
No, I solder my rail joiners on my straight track, but I don't do it when I'm connecting to switches because I like to leave my switches floating.
Right.
In case something happens and I need to take them out.
Now he's talking about
if you solder to the switch, right? The turnout. The turnouts, 4.
There's 6 connectors on
6 ends, and you solder those. Now, say something goes wrong, you need to take that. The switch itself, there's nothing wrong, but the track needs to be taken apart. What happens is you got to cut the straight track before and after. Then what you got to do is take it, clean off the switch, and then take your soldering gun and place it and melt this and pulling the rail joiner off with a little bit of force. But you all and I know that when you pull it off and you're pulling and you're pulling and you're pulling, and all of a sudden you pull the whole rail out, which in some cases is not a bad thing because if it's a small piece, you can always slide it back in. But if you rip it, tear it, then it's like, and the switches on these Payco switches, it's cheap. It's $21, $22 per switch if I go to, somebody I know. But that's $22 that I didn't have to spend. So when you float them and you get in there, little bit of work, but you can get it out. And then like I said earlier, I did it on remodeling the yard over there. I was able to get those switches out because I didn't solder them. So I was able to put some there was some glue on them, and I took a hot towel with hot water, put it on, soaked it, then slipped like a little spatula under it that bent, and I was able to pry it off and then get it up and then clean it all up. So it can be done. You just got to be careful and take your time, and it will happen. It will happen.
Before Andy starts, because Andy's track work is the exception. If you're a beginner in railroading or even intermediate, I suggest if you're using flex track, even sectional track, use rail joiners.
Absolutely.
But only use them on the flexible stuff that you're using. Like Bill said, not on the turnouts. You still use a rail joiner, but don't solder it. Yeah. So you can slide your rail joiner back to get your turnout out.
Cut 2 to 3 tie head details off of the track before your turnout.
On the flex track, not on the turnout.
On the flex track, that way you can slide your rail joiner up the side of your flex track, and your turnout actually can be pulled up, lifted up, and pulled out.
Just on one side, but on the diverging side, because otherwise, if you only slide the rail joiners back on the far side, you'll have a hard time pulling out because the 2 routes will put you in a bind.
That depends on.
I do it on all 6 rails. There's no point in doing one side.
Well,
all 6 rails.
This is a probably inconsequential discussion one way or the other. But what's the point of?
Whoa! Did you just say inconsequential?
No, yeah, my debate. Okay, you're right. How many syllables is that? I think I'm only allowed 3, right?
Right. No big words are allowed here.
1 too many. You got me. Okay.
You confuse me.
Okay, I'm sorry. It's an unnecessary thing for me to debate this novelty. But I think rail joiners are one of the worst cosmetic problems we have in modern railroading, like bar none. That's hard to solve for most people.
But you're the prototyper. You're the prototyper.
That's right. There's no prototype equivalent for rail joiners, so I don't love those. I mean, there is. There's fish plates. And 2 points on that, though. but it's not a necessary argument of whether you slide the rail jointers on back on both sides. But once you've made it on the diverging route side where you can slide the rail jointers back and pick that track up an eighth of an inch, slide it straight out. What's the benefit of the cosmetic penalty of doing the same thing on the point side? Because the cosmetic penalty for rail jointers is already quite high. Now, granted, I recommend for 50+% of modelers, all the guys up through intermediate, to absolutely, definitively use rail jointers. However, I got a problem with that too, that people don't consider. What do you do with rail with gaps in the rail? When you cut a gap in the rail, your rail is not being held in position. So why are rail jointers necessary everywhere else too, if you're already got places on your layout where the rail is not being held in position?
For alignment. For alignment.
Okay, but then how do you cut rail joints and allow them to be able to float around?
Well,
he's talking cutting gaps.
I know, but
your ties are still holding them in place.
Okay, then don't the ties hold it in place?
Yeah, but that's the wrong argument, because when you're putting two pieces of track together, whether you stagger the joints or not, most people just put straight track together, straight joint across, and they use a rail joiner to do it. Okay. But if you're doing it on a curve, there's no way I'm going to cut gaps in a curve. No way, because the track's going to want to pop out.
Okay, so you don't use curved turnouts then?
Well, you wouldn't cut gaps.
It depends on what the railroad calls for.
Hang on, Bill. The gaps are not cut in the curved part of the rail.
They're not. So if you have a curved turnout,
they're not.
Okay, hang on.
A curved turnout does not have a curve where it joins the track on the divergent track. It goes off straight.
Commercial model railroad turnouts, curve all the way through. On the prototype, they do not. The frog is straight on a prototype curve turnout, but they continue to curve around. Otherwise, you couldn't drop it into
the thing I remember about those, like the fast tracks, they're soldered to PCB ties.
Look at Sam Cools right there. Oh, I'm a big fan.
But there's the fast tracks, and no matter how you look at it, from there to there, it's straight. It's not curved.
That's a straight turnout.
It's curved from here to here.
But that's
the straight's on this side. The straight is on this side.
But that's a straight turnout. How about a curved turnout, where both the normal path and the diverging path are both curved through their entirety? On model railroad turnouts, they are curved through the frog as well.
Okay.
Are they not curved through the turnout and out onto the track? Would you not have to cut gaps for the frog? And
there we go.
On a curve.
I got a couple of questions here. Boys. I got to break into this hot dialogue. Brooks Wiglin. I hope I'm pronouncing that right, Brooks. Even through rosin core solder has some flux. Using extra flux on the rail helps the solder flow faster, allowing a better control of the heat going into the rail. Ari McKeever says, I don't solder my turnouts so I can work on them. And so when the layout gets taken down, I can save the turnouts for reuse. Very good choice.
But how do you deal with same problem? How do you deal with
you're talking a curved turnout.
Wait a minute, boys. Wait a minute. Where's Sparky? Sparky, you still in here? You still in this conversation, Mr. Hey, what? He left. No, I know he's not in the conversation. I want to know if he's still out there.
All right.
Come on, answer me, Sparky. Answer me.
What you're talking about, Andy, is on either side of that rail joint or where you're cutting your gaps, you got PCB tie to hold everything together.
Most people don't. 80% of modelers do not.
Okay, on a manufactured one, they're glued. They're either a non-metallic frog, so they can be cast all as one piece.
Okay, so you have a curved turnout coming off from a siding, and you need to cut the gaps for the passing siding in DC for isolation, in DCC so that you can kill the power to a particular track like staging or various other tracks.
There,
occupancy detection or anything. You have an isolated joint out here at the clearance point of that siding. That is an exposed gap, not being held in alignment or registration without anything to cover it. Now, I have a fix for this. Fish plates, unequivocally. However, if you also have to solve that problem with fish plates, then why don't just put fish plates on every place where there's a gap between rails, like the ends of the rails, and skip the awful-looking, unprototypical in every way rail joiners. I don't see the benefit to them.
Why would you be cutting gaps into a pre-manufactured turnout that's DCC compliant?
Oh, well, okay, some are. How about Shinohara turnouts? They're not. You have to cut those gaps. But I'm not talking about the frog gaps. That could be dealt with in various ways. I'm talking about the gaps for the passing sidings that are required.
He's talking about the curved track joining a siding track.
That's right.
Off the turnout.
Right.
Okay, another piece. The curved turnout joining another piece of track.
Well, I mean, just you have a curved turnout, both sides curve. Both tracks leading away from that curved turnout through the diverging route continue to curve around your layout. Think about Big Bill's layout. He's got that curved turnout going around the end of the peninsula. If we've all watched his recent update about that, and those two tracks continue to curve right there. Would you not need gaps? Maybe not on his, but on many people's layout, you will need some gaps in those curves. To say that you'll never cut a gap in a curve, or even rarely, because I do all the time.
That's where your insulated rail. Now, that's where a lot of people use insulated rail joiners.
I think there's two fixes. Insulated rail joiners that most serious modelers snub because for obvious reasons, they look awful. Or is just use insulated fish plates. Oh. But then once you're doing that, why not just do that everywhere where a rail joiner belongs?
Does anybody here fill in the rail gaps with solder?
Fill in what?
People who do that. I never done it before.
Say that again.
They fill in their rail gaps with solder. Fill in.
You lose your isolation benefit. I have done that in times past where a gap was necessary at one point and no longer become necessary, or even to troubleshoot. I've cut a gap before years ago, cut a gap before to troubleshoot track, and then solder it back together and file the solder down to fix it. But solder won't hold up the same as nickel silver rail. It's not nickel silver, obviously. It will break down over time. It's like a long time, though. You're probably safe. But you can't isolate the rail.
I have a question here for some of you guys on I have to take control back. Bill Wyatt, I have a question about the Digitrack DS52 turnout Dakota whenever it would be in order. Anybody know anything about that?
I have no clue on Digitracks.
I'm in CE.
Look at this.
CE, yeah.
What?
Bill, explain that in a little detail while I go on.
If we could delay that a minute, I'll go look up that particular model number and see if we developed some consensus on it.
D as in Darling, S as in Stephen, -52. Digitrax DS52 turnout Dakota. Wall Bonnet Train says, when I need a gap on a curve, I remove 4 adjacent ties and install 2 PC ties.
Yep.
Seems pretty reasonable.
The thing is, if you've got your track glued down and you use PC ties, you can remove the chance of the track wanting to go out.
Sure. That's another way to solve that problem. I love that fix. I use that fix on all commercial track and in staging where I cut rail joints or cut gaps. I use a printed circuit tie on either side of that gap to force alignment. Good fix. Most people don't.
I'll pull up that DS52 here.
Yeah, DS52 is for snap turnout controls, like a solenoid or an Atlas snap switch of any kind.
It can be used for slow motion machines as well.
Yeah, I guess it's only a single pole.
It's a stationary decoder. If you want to control your turnouts with your controller,
yeah,
right? You'll give it an address on your Digitrack system, and that will control when you dial it in. Let's say it's switch number 2, dial in switch number 2 or whatever it says, and you operate it. In the meantime, you're not. It's only being used to switch your turnouts, and you are the only one that can control it from your controller or whoever else is operating.
Or JMRI can talk to it also.
Right. I don't know if O scale is here, but when I was modeling O scale, I had MTH DCS system, and you could do the same exact thing with any kind of switch. You can switch 1, switch 2, and you could put instead of like a consist, you could route your switches all the way to a yard or siding anywhere, just right from the remote.
Hey, Dwight. Dwight has a comment. He says, too many interrupting each other before one has a completed thought. Very passionate people on this tonight. Very passionate. Very passionate, Dwight. I'm going to try to get control of it. See, Johnny does a better job of it than I do. He takes out his Glock and pulls it up. I don't have. Yeah, he says, Bill Wyatt, I'm building towards a DCC PP system, but due to the steep learning curve, I will use Digitrax to control some of my switches. My problem, the DC52 will not switch the Atlas turnouts. They just buzz. Would that be because there's not enough current going into the Atlas?
Yep.
Possibly.
Atlas are often much lower current required than some of the old solenoids we used to use. That it might be true, but the way to solve the problem or to figure out the nature of the problem, as with any other electrical thing, is a $5 multimeter, according to everybody else. A multimeter.
He says what I need. He answers his own question. He says what I need is more current to make them change. He says I use 12 volt and they change just fine. Doesn't Digitrax make a booster, a 5-amp booster?
Yeah, but that wouldn't give you more voltage per se. You're talking about 12 volts. Not to mention, you would still be limited by how much volts go through that thing by that board, as opposed to the DCC control signal that feeds your track. So,
one way to do it would be to have it control a relay, if you needed to do it.
Warmonic Trade says the 52 only works with slow motion machines. And then in that case, it would require those machines to work like a tortoise as well.
But they work on 12 volts. It works
with snap switches.
Well,
it does.
It does say that. I agree.
Now, if it's not turning a snap, if it's there may be a jumper that needs to be set.
There's
switches to allow higher current flow.
What happened to your picture? There's a jumper. Configure the jumper shown. It shows you there's a jumper there.
Yeah, configuration jumper shown in closed position. Programming jumper also shown in A and B.
So you're going to have to figure out what the A and B actually do. One may give you a little bit more voltage.
Well, let's find out here. Configuration jumper shown closed for slow motion turnout. So you probably open it for the snap switches.
So you probably have it in the wrong position. Slow motion decoder turnout machines or switch machines will work on less than 12 volts. They'll go a little bit slower. What you want is the full power that's built up in that capacitor to snap your turnout machine, your switch machine.
Here you go. Solenoid type turnout machines, 3-wire Atlas, Pico, and others, and bipolar 2-wire Kato, Unitrack, and Aristocraft LGB, and others. Connect the turnout machines as shown. Note that you can use either 3-wire or 2-wire turnout machines. You can even use a 2-wire machine on one output and a 3-wire machine on the other output, as shown below. The configuration jumper on DS52 should be in the open position, which means you pull it off. You can pull it off and stick it back on just one pin so you don't lose it, but you pull it off and leave the circuit, that part of the circuit, open. So you go up here and you take this jumper off. You know, that one right there.
Oh, wait, hold on. Before we get to anything, we have somebody, Joel Calmer says, I'm not telling others what to do. I'm just saying what I do. Please forgive me. Don't. I think Andy answered that on the bottom. There is no apology necessary, my man. None whatsoever. You're throwing your idea out there, and you're saying what works for you. And you're not, certainly in any of the questions I read here tonight, you didn't say this is what you must do. This is how you should do it. You were pretty straightforward, but there was nothing demanding in your questions. So please don't apologize. It's an open forum here. Everyone here's got thick skin a little bit. And if it and listen, if you do get out of line, I'll definitely be at your house. I'll be sleeping over and making your life miserable for 1 week. But other than that, you're good, brother. You're good.
Is that what's going to take you to come to Nashville?
What's that, Joe?
Is that what's going to take you to come to Nashville?
You got me. Yes, Bill Wyatt says, yes, the configuration has been correct as far as the jumpers are concerned.
May have hooked up wrong.
Could be.
If they're just, they should not buzz. If they're buzzing, you're passing constant voltage through them. You're going to destroy them.
Absolutely. But a voltmeter is the key.
It's on and then off.
And that's what you get for a slow motion machine. It's on all the time.
Yeah. Because they're a stall mode.
It would burn out, right?
Yeah, you'll burn the coil out in it.
In the snap switch.
Yes.
Oh, Joe Carmen says, I'm in Kansas. No one comes here. I'll come.
A bunch of us were near Kansas this past summer. But it's a city, Missouri, however. We were very near Kansas.
Oh, there's something on the jumper positions, too. Hey, Bill, Mr. Wyatt, you can get this and download, I mean, from Digitrax, I'm sure you can get that.
Yep.
And a multimeter is your friend.
Multimeter definitely is your friend.
And it's a super easy thing to do. Stick the thing under the wire, make a couple contacts, lay it there, and then throw the turnout. See if you're getting voltage. See if you're constantly getting it. See if you're getting it when you want it, and if you're getting the correct side of it when you want it. I think, and my favorite trick about a multimeter, real quickly, that people don't use and end up with shorts all the time, is anytime you're wiring your layout, take your multimeter, or I say multimeter, but Ralph likes to give me a hard time about that. But take your multimeter and set it on the tone for continuity tests, like where you tap the contacts together and they buzz, and stick it under each rail, and then go about wiring your layout. And if it happens while you're hooking up wires that you get a bail, then you made a mistake right then on the last wire.
Hey, Bill Wyatt wants to know, why do they work for other turnouts, name brand?
Well, like I said, it depends. Are you using 3-wire or 2-wire turnouts on the other ones?
Kill the screen share. And also, do you have the jumper in the right position?
He said he did.
Well, if it's buzzing and it's a constant buzz, it's not.
Well, I hooked up wrong, and the two solenoids are fighting each other.
He said, Bill White says, I have it and have a meter scope. Electronics is my life's work. Model trains is not. And he says, he goes on to say 2-wire.
2-wire.
Yeah.
It could be a terminal hooked onto the wrong terminals on the DS52 then. Hang on a second.
Yeah, it could be. Listen, I just want to know, is Sparky out in the audience?
Because according to the diagram on here, for a 2-wire, you should be using like number 6 and 8. And if that's the case, it would be 1 and 2 on your, or 1 and 3 on your first set. And then you'll have 4 and 5 are your rail, A and B, and then 6 and 8 would be your other turnout.
I don't think he is, Bill.
Guess not. But with the jumpers unchanged, I use 12 and the switch works fine. And they are 3-wire. Sorry.
Okay. So with the jumper on, it works fine, but with the jumper off, they sit there and buzz.
Bill, do you happen to have multiple of those or a couple of those 52s? Because there is no substitute for swap to ensure that your board is doing the way it should, acting the way it should, if you have 2 of them. If you don't, that's a little trickier.
Yeah, because it could be an error in the way the board's printed or programmed, where that one's doing the reverse of what it's supposed to be doing.
No, that was Joel Calmer. He went to grab a Pepsi. He'd be right back. Bill Wyatt is still out there, I believe. And we're coming up on 10:52. Man, this was fast. He goes, Bill Wyatt, yes, and the problem continues with all.
The instructions may be wrong. I'd call Digitrax.
Could be the track itself. Could it be the rail?
No, the turnout should be electrically isolated from the rail. The turnout machine could be. Of course, if there's something shorting that together, maybe if you had a circuit board, throw bar or something, I don't know. But if you're going to wire that stuff up, or in my case, if I was going to wire something like that up, I always wire it, wire or at least figure out all that wiring with it isolated from the track. So just
That's
hook your bus and the turnout motor just sitting there.
That's what I was going to suggest. If you have another turnout that's not in your layout, play with that along with that DS52 and see if you can get it. See if you can get it to work.
Yeah, make sure you don't have any locomotives on the track. Nothing.
Will Bonnet Train says also before the board is called bad, put it through a reset.
If it has firmware on it, no question about it. And actually, I'm sure it does because it has software, firmware related to its DCC address. So, yeah, that makes sense. That's what makes Decoder Pro so doggone valuable, in my opinion. It makes it super easy to just reset components, DCC components.
Another thing is make sure your track's hooked into the right. Double check your connections. I mean, if you're, well as anybody, if you're an electrical guy, you always double check your connections. Make sure your rails are going into the right spots. Make sure you don't have a stray wire jumping across the connector, a piece of solder sitting down there somewhere,
or even a screwdriver.
Yeah.
Simplify. You got your DCC base station. Unhook the 2 wires that are headed out to your bus. Just unhook them. You have a DCC command station there. Hook 2 wires directly from that DCC command station to this little board that we're the 52 board, and hook a turnout machine. All you have is command station, board, turnout machine.
Yeah.
Figure it out before you start adding components to the complexity. As with IT or any other complex troubleshooting, as simple as you can get your arrangement.
Yeah. Just we're coming up on 10:54. Joe G, what have you been working on? I've been watching you here up to the side, and you've been weathering something. What have you been doing?
I am cleaning up old cars that I bought from eBay, and I am testing new weathering techniques with mineral spirits and oils. And I bought burnt sienna, raw sienna, yellow ochre, and we also have the favorite burnt umber. So I'm working on rust streaks tonight.
Oh, you've been practicing.
Practicing on old freight cars.
Way to go, man.
I even broke down a box of oil paints the other night.
You had the box upside down.
There you go.
There you go. Now we're better. Now.
So Joey, what brand did you get?
It's the same. It's Fine Touch. They had them on sale, so I'm going to test these out first. Okay.
What you'll find with oil paints from manufacturer to manufacturer, the size of the pigment that's in it varies greatly from very fine to granular. And as long as it's a clump of oil paint it looks good. But when you start thinning it out with mineral spirits, you'll see if it's grainy or if it's really fine.
So are you suggesting that we go to a higher quality oil paint?
Yeah, don't skimp on quality. If you're putting this stuff out there, you're putting it on your rail cars and so on. Try not, you go even if you're doing weathering on projects that are anywhere from $30 to $100, you didn't skimp on the price of it. So why skimp on the paint that you're doing to weather it?
There you go.
Right.
That lasts forever too.
Like, I'm not saying that paint is bad. I'm just saying,
No, you're saying the quality of
test
it.
it out. Test out
You
the
get
quality.
what you pay for, right? If you pay,
Yeah.
if you go and you buy
Right.
$9 square yard of rug, you're going to get a $9 square yard of rug.
I
You
found
buy
out the hard way. I use Winsor Newton oils.
Yeah, I use those
artist paints, and now there's one that's even better. And if you can get it, the military guys use this. It's called, and let me get it here right. It's hard to get the.
Yeah, there it goes.
It's focused.
It's a German thing.
It is. It's a German one. It's called Abbott Lung, number 502, and it comes in various colors. And the pigment in this is so fine that no matter how much mineral spirit you put in it, it won't separate.
There you go. Hey, Bill Wyatt just came back on. He said, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I lost the chat. He said, yes, I have it on a test setup on my bench. Nothing but the needed items are connected. So there. And Ari McKeevy says, the Mud Father has spoken. It is truth. It is truth. Veritas. It is veritas. Latin.
That's my findings. It's not truth. It's just my findings.
Yeah, well. But that, Joe, I have to say that's a good thing that, you mentioned that you bought these scrap cars on eBay, probably didn't pay a lot of money for them. And you're practicing on it, and that's just enhancing your skills.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. So
hobby shops are another good place to find old scrap cars to work on and try out stuff on.
Old Tyco.
That's if the hobby shop takes in old stuff, like old layouts and stuff.
Yeah. And Jason,
or purchase estates.
Yeah, sure, yeah. Jason, what have you been? I saw you were working on a backhoe that was on a flat car.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Let me switch over to the other camera. Take it back down. What I was doing was working on the.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah, there we go. I saw that earlier.
I was working on the little.
Can somebody blow up his screen?
Working on the.
Didn't go bigger, Bill.
The wood planks to stop the backhoe from moving on the flat car and all that. I was finishing that part up. I did this part here for the what do you call it, the bucket that set in. I'm just laying them on the car.
That's where you're going to put the. Oh yeah, when it sits there, and then the bucket sits there. Are you going to use chain?
Yeah, like a chain or a wire. I'll put on it. Depends on which car I'm wanting to put it on first.
Yeah.
And if I want to do another one.
How long did that take you to do?
because these are kind of tedious putting them together.
Is that a cat?
Yeah, it's a caterpillar.
Yeah. And how long did it take you to build, to structure that?
Oh, the build little thing?
Yeah.
It took me what? Oh, about 15 minutes for the bucket. The deal I did to set the bucket in. But the wood plank deal I had, it took me about 15, 20 minutes to get it just right and glue it together.
Jason, I have a question. What would you use to chain down the cat?
What was that again?
What would you use to tie down the cat? Was like what kind of material, like to chain it or rope?
Chain it. Real life, it would be chained.
Right.
You can get from Michael's or any Hobby Lobby.
Yeah.
They sell chains.
Okay, cool. I have a couple of cars like that too that I like to make.
Yeah. Greg Hines, he wants to know, Bill, what this track controller are you using? Greg, Bill had to bail because his what do you call it? His connection was breaking up, so he bailed out on the conversation and stuff. Joel Calmer says, when I use acrylic paint, I use glycerin breaks to reduce paint, not a lot of water. It will kill the paint's elasticity.
Mm-hmm.
Elasticity. Now there's a word. You know what my favorite word is? Delicatessen. Just thought I'd throw it out there.
Everybody's looking that up.
Oh, Bill White back. He says the controller is the Model 50i. He says no 50 Model 50. I think the one with everything built into one box. So apparently he didn't. My Joel Calmer says my grandpa did terraces and used motor graders and a disc. My uncle made an HO model. Good word. Check the track voltage, Greg Hines says to Bill Wyatt. Stuff. Here we are at 11:04 p.m. I tell you, this went by really fast. We got into like a couple of things. You know, I just want to put it out there, Sam. You're too much of a chatterbox. You got to calm down, okay? Right? You just go right off. You're interrupting everybody. We can't have that here on what? No, I'm only kidding. I love you. Yeah, you're very wordy, John says. I love you like a brother, Sam. Not necessarily my brother, but I love you like a brother. So, Dave Piper says, great show. A lot of good discussion. Learned a lot. Bill Wyatt, thanks, guys, for the help. This is a good group. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Dave and Bill, thank you very much. Thank you very much. And, guys, thank you for being on the oh, yeah, there's a good one. Precision Dine. Yeah, I know. HO chains and binders and hooks and shackles. You can go to this gentleman, Bill Brill, I think his name is.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Bill Brillinger.
Bill Brillinger, yes. And you can definitely get some stuff. He's got good loads, too. He's got good loads on that for HO and N scales and signs and stuff. But don't forget what? Oh, right. I got to say that I should have said this at the beginning, but this is a special announcement. It's a it's a service announcement. March 1st, Google Plus will no longer be part of. Google Plus is going away. Google Plus will no longer be around. You'll not be able to post anything on that Google Plus page on our YouTube Model Builders. because they're taking it away. You can go to our Facebook page, YouTube Model Builders, if you want to communicate with us or to put something in our Facebook page, and then and YouTube Model Builders on YouTube as well. You can do that. But starting March 1st, Google Plus will be going away, and you won't be able to post on our community page there anymore. Yeah, not just our page, but that's for everybody.
It's going away for all normal end users.
Yes, everybody's using Google Plus for your own page and your own. It's going away. So I'm being selfish and self-centered and thinking that we're the center of the universe.
Well, they're keeping Google Plus. Google Plus is staying alive, but only for business customers. It's going away as a free product for normal end users. But we do have an active Facebook community, as well as
we do.
We also have a reasonably active or somewhat active Groups.io page, which is where most people who left Yahoo, whatever that thing was called over there, where like if you want to follow JMRI, you had to be on the Yahoo news group over there.
Right.
That's all.
Right. SONCE.
And if you're not on Groups.io, you are missing a massive amount of content because the JMRI groups are all over there, including the guys who write JMRI. Also, a lot of the Proto groups, Proto 48 and stuff, and Proto 87 guys, a lot of the ON30 and narrow gauge guys. Groups.io is really popular amongst model railroaders, and we have a Groups.io page as well as YouTube Model Builders.
Right, absolutely right. So Google Plus page, our page, YouTube Model Builders, plus anybody else who has one will be going away for our purposes March 1st. So look us up on Facebook, on YouTube Model Builders, and you guys can check us out there, and hopefully we'll be moving forward in the next couple of months with some new stuff. So just to highlight again, February, we're at the end of January, and then we start into February, the second month of 2019. And February 7th, we open up with Johnny's Model Train Talk Show, where our host and great guy, Johnny Reb, will be back. And that's at 10 p.m. Eastern Time. And on the 12th of February, we'll have the Fine Scale Show with Andy, Miles, Lloyd, and Ralph Renzetti, a.k.a. the Mudfather. And on the 13th, it will be Who's Big Bill Talking To? And my guest on the 13th will be Creative Rails channel, Ben. And then back on the 14th is a Thursday, Johnny's Model Train Talk Show will be on. And then on February 20th, we have Joe's Train Room. Well, Joe will most likely be doing something on operations again. And then right back to me on the 27th, and we'll have Brian Burke on as a guest. Brian Burke used to model, still does. He's getting back into the hobby after moving a couple of times, and just want to give him a shout out and highlight him on our channel and see what great work he does. So to all you guys out there, thank you so much for joining in. To the guys on the panel here, thanks for jumping in, and appreciate you guys being a part of this. And from all of us here at YouTube Model Builders, thank you out there in the community for being a part of this, because without you, we'd just be talking to dead air, right? Take care, God bless, and we'll see you guys on the radio. Bye-bye.